A massive move is incoming for this Miami Heat organization after a brand new report reveals surprising information tying them to multiple-time All-Star Chicago Bulls center Nikola Vucevic. I'm here to break down whether or not Miami would go in this direction and why it would be a good idea to go out there and add some more depth at the center position. We'll break down all of that on this episode of Heat Digest, but first remember to stay up to date with everything Miami Heat by scrolling down and clicking the subscribe button, as nearly 90% of you guys watching this video are not currently subscribed to the channel. We do appreciate all the love and support. Help us hit our new goal of 3,000 subscribers. Thank you guys, but now let's get to it and break down. Will Miami go out and acquire another big man? Now, the name we're going to be discussing is Nikola Vucevic. Now, he is a longtime center this past year for the Chicago Bulls. He's played for 3 teams throughout the entirety of his career, including Philly, Orlando, and then Chicago, where he's really been a model of consistency. From start to finish, he's been in that mid to high teens scoring points per game, while being very credible on the defensive rebounding side of things. He's not the greatest defender around the paint, but because of his size and his stature, he does have some abilities around the painted area when it comes down to defensive abilities. By no means am I saying he's Anthony Davis at Kentucky when it comes to the defensive side of things, but he is respectable because of the size and the length that he does maintain. If you look at the overall scoring threats, he is a very good option at the center position. We've seen him really stretch out his game and really revolutionize his game as he's gotten older throughout his career, adding a three-point shot, becoming more lethal with the ability to stretch the floor while also being an interior threat. Would Miami go out there and actually acquire him? Well, based off this article titled Miami Heat may be possible suitor for 2-time All-Star, it leaves us to believe it wouldn't be that bad of an idea, and they may be in a position to actually go out there and acquire him because of how they could do so. Now, it opened the article by saying the Miami Heat may be in the market to add to their slowly developing unit. Chicago Bulls center Nikola Vucevic has been floated in league conversations after reportedly being viewed as an unattractive option, opening the door for a possible buyout rather than an actual trade. Now, before we get to the next piece of information from this article, this is huge. Now, we've seen this constantly throughout this offseason. The buyout has been very, very popular. Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, a bunch of others have been involved in buyouts for their respected organizations, and it's worked out very well. These athletes have been able to get bought out on their contracts, go to other teams on minimum deals because they're already getting paid now by 2 teams, and it's going to be stretched out and over a longer stretch of time. So they're going to be getting income from that first contract for a longer period of time rather than that contract. They are now freshly signing Bradley Beal with the Clippers and obviously Damian Lillard with the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, the way it works, if someone is to be bought out, we have broken this down ad nauseum, but if you don't know how it works, the way a buyout works, if a team wants to buy out an asset, and we're going to use Vucevic as the example in this situation because that's who we're discussing. He has 1 year left on his deal. He's going into the final year of that deal where he's going to be getting paid, let's call it $21.5 million over this final season of play. If the Chicago Bulls end up wanting to buy out Vucevic, they would have to double the amount of years that he has remaining. So 1 would end up being 2, but then they have to add 1 more year to that. So it would be a 3-year deal paying him $21.5 million rather than getting it over this up-and-coming season flat out before it becomes paid in full and becomes an unrestricted free agent. So Vucevic would then be getting paid $21.5 by the Chicago Bulls for the next 3 seasons, and then he would be getting paid on his new deal, whether it's Miami, LA, whoever ends up paying him and going out and trying to acquire him. But also, there isn't a trade that has to be made. They would be able to go out there and sign Vucevic rather than giving up a bunch of assets in a trade scenario. Now, the article would go on to say, quote, there hasn't been much of a market for Nikola Vucevic dating back to the last trade deadline. NBA insider Jake Fisher said on the Bleacher Report live stream, quote, I think at this juncture, we're probably more likely to see a Nikola Vucevic buyout mid-season than we are to see a trade. That's the end of the quote from Jake Fisher, someone we cite on this channel all the time because he's very good at his job and he's very accurate. In this is interesting because if it's not going to happen this offseason. It's going to happen in the middle of this up-and-coming season. I could see how Miami would be very much involved. And no, it's not because of the lack of talent and depth they have at these positions. But if you look at how the roster is currently constructed, yes, 1 through 4 is phenomenal and is going to be very competitive. But then there's Kel'el Ware at the 5. And I don't have to be the one to tell you I'm one of the biggest Kel'el fans and supporters. I am. I think he has as much potential as any young guy in the NBA. He has the ability to stretch the floor. He has the ability to be Anthony Davis at Kentucky in the sense of defense because of his overall length, his athleticism, and his abilities on the defensive end. We saw it last season as a rookie. When he's in the painted area, he makes life hell for guys trying to finish around the bucket. But if you could add more depth, it would only do good things for this Miami Heat team. Now we discuss it a lot in baseball, and I know it's two very different sports. But when it comes down to baseball, you need depth. You need the versatility, and you need the ability to throw out more guys. If someone goes down with injury, or if someone's not feeling right, someone's sick, you have to have the ability to fall back on more quality arms. It's the same idea for basketball, regardless of the position, because it's only 5 guys on the floor at once. And when it gets down to crunch time, and fouls can be a problem, or fatigue can be an issue, or injuries can be an issue. With Kel'el Ware being as young as he is, and Bam Adebayo trying to have a breakout year compared to what we saw last season, I think it would be smart for Miami to have some more depth, not apply all of this pressure to these guys. And we have mentioned how having the starting 5, plus the guys coming off the bench as utility guys in Jaquez, Pella Larson, Kasparis, Hayward Highsmith, Jovic, all these guys coming off the bench who are going to be very good complementary guys for this Heat organization, they are going to need another guy. They're going to need more help because without Kel'el Ware on the floor, this lineup gets very, very small. Jovic is now the starting 4. Bam Adebayo is right back to being a center. Hayward Highsmith could be the 4. We're going to see a lot of that this up-and-coming season because of Jaquez, because of Wiggins and Powell rounding out the 2 and 3 spots for this Miami Heat organization. If you go out and add Vucevic, you're going to add even more versatility to this Miami Heat organization, which I think is never going to be considered a bad thing. Overall, if the market is not there for Vucevic and they are able to go out there in a sign and trade scenario when he is bought out, I think it could be very, very good. I think it could be an absolute steal for this Heat team because overall the statistical production, especially on the offensive end, is going to be apparent and it's going to be felt right away for this Heat team or whatever organization is lucky enough to go out and get Vucevic. Whether or not he wants to become a 35-year-old coming off the bench in a complementary role is a different conversation that we don't know the answers to. I would assume that Vucevic getting older in age, going to a team where he assumes is going to be competitive, not only in the Eastern Conference, but overall throughout the league, I could see how he could be very much into this idea. He wouldn't be the number 1 guy by any means. He'd be playing off of guys like Bam and Kel'el, and then obviously Norman, Wiggins, Tyler Hero, the list goes on of other formidable guys they would have on this team. Overall, I really like this idea. Whether or not the Heat go in this direction is to be determined. But we know Vucevic performs well against Miami, performs well in the Kaseya Center or American Airlines, however you'd like to address it. 16, 11, and with 3 assists in 15 games against the Miami Heat last year. Overall, very, very good stuff for Vucevic. It was not just last year, I misspoke. Over the last 5 to 6 seasons for Vucevic in 15 games against this Miami Heat team. He's been very, very productive. I would love to see him in a Heat jersey as a complimentary guy coming off the bench to add depth to the center position for this Heat team. Let me know down below your overall thoughts and opinions on this, and I will see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest.